All right, hey everyone. We'll give people a couple of minutes to join, and then we'll get started. Be thinking about whether we're gonna, if there's anything to add to the agenda while we're waiting. Also, hey Dan, congratulations.
Thank you.
I assume it's congratulations.
Yes,
You never know. You gotta, you end up assigned to something, and then you're like, is that congratulations or not? But I think it is.
Oh no, yeah, it's great. Thank you. Yeah. Rob's still going to participate. It just has been just the it's really the meeting load on today on Thursday. We're just trying to divide and conquer. So,
no worries, no worries at all. This is an excellent thing actually in reality. So this is great. All right, we have quorum.
Yeah.
We'll give people 3 minutes to join.
And we have both Richard and Stephen.
What's that?
We have both Richard and Stephen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have Stephen on there. Okay, got Richard. So we were just Songming and Pursoon. Pursoon's been missing a number of times. I'll take a note to reach out to him. Right. 2 more minutes and we'll officially get started. All right, well, we definitely have quorum. So let's go ahead and get started. Anybody have any announcements other than Dan is now Intel's representative? And there's Songming. That's perfect. We definitely have quorum now. Anybody have any other announcements?
Boris set up and made a bunch of releases last night, bunch of point releases, so it's notable.
That's right. Did everybody see that list, which is all of the packages you could install on a DPU? Here, I can share. I think I have that thing popped open separately. I do indeed. All right. There it is. All right. So, we voted in secure ZTP, the Go DPU, which used to be called GoP, which I guess was not an acceptable set of vowels, so it got renamed to Go DPU, SPDK, the SM BIOS, and the 2 bridges, plus Strong Swan, and then Pi DPU to go with the Go DPU. And package, one of the things Tim is going to talk about is the discussion we had yesterday in the POC meeting, and he'll summarize the discussion on both sides, and then I want to continue it here because this is a really important decision point for us. And I know which side I'm on, but I'm not going to tell you until the discussion has happened. So Yeah, so that was that's a really good call out. So in fact, I'll just copy this into the notes so we have another place where it's recorded. All right, any additions to the agenda? Is there anything anyone else wants to cover? So we've got the SmartNIC Summit, which will go pretty quickly because it's really just organizational and setting things up. And then we'll jump in. Tim will lead a discussion on OPI applications and where we want to go with that. And then I want to do a follow-up on the demo discussion that was last week. So I read the notes and I looked at the demo thing. And I think there's something good there. And again, along with the releases and the applications discussion, it's a good way to get out into the world the things we're doing. And then I saw there was a big update on the lab execution. So I want just a 3-minute or so where we are on that, and if there are any problems or deadline shifts. And then we could get the status of the DPU network model, and when are we going to when do we want to bring that into this group to get a final agreement and say it's the way to go. And then again, same thing on the full boot. Does anybody have anything else to add? All right, Paul, take it away.
Sure. So,
and do
we have,
or just let me know.
No, I can just talk. I didn't prepare any slides or anything. So the SmartNIC Summit is very keen on having OPI be a big part of their summit. And one of the ways they'd like us to do that is they've offered to co-locate an event. A half-day event at the same location, free of charge and all that good stuff. They'd like us to spend 4 hours having our event, and we can do pretty much whatever we'd like with that event. Their suggestion is to have, someone be an MC, someone up front talking about giving a very quick update of what OPI is and leading off the discussion, and then having 4 separate technical presentations somewhere in the 40 to 45 minute section. And then with a question and answer at the end. I think this is a great way for us to get our message out to the folks that will be there. Many of the this is a very technical conference, and many of the attendees will be technical, and getting access to them and having them in the room would be great. Would be a great way for us to expand our membership and to expand the thought leadership that this group has. So I think it's a great thing, but I can't commit 4 different presenters or technical presenters to come to San Jose this week, the week of the conference, and present, nor commit you to prepare and all that good stuff. So I'm looking for commitment from this group that yes, we could prepare and present at this event. The organizing, the outreach committee will take care of, but we need this group to find people to prepare and present at that event.
And the tutorial session is a half a day or 1 day split into 2 half days, the day before the main part of the presentations and so on?
It is the day before the main presentations, and it's a half day. I believe the goal for them is to have 2 in the morning, and you get to choose between them, and 2 in the afternoon, and you choose between them. And it hasn't been decided if this is morning or evening. So
right. And then
Alad has his hand up. Go ahead, Joe.
What day is it?
I will look real quick. I should have been prepared for that question.
Alon, go ahead.
This time I raised my hand to say that I'm in. That's all.
You're in. Oh, okay. It is June 13th through the 15th. And so this would probably be the 12th, I believe, is when I'll have to figure out which exact date it is, but it's the week of June 13th through 15th, somewhere in there. And it is in San Jose at the DoubleTree Hotel there, right near the airport. So,
Yeah.
Alad's in. Venkat, you got your hand up.
I'm also in. So.
Okay, we've got 2 people in.
Yeah,
there-
we plan to be there as well. So if you need a third, someone from Intel will be there.
Yeah, and
Okay.
and I'll be there as well. I presented there last year. I presented on 2 panel sessions last year, and I'll be there again for the
Okay.
show. I can be there for the tutorial day. And so so how do you want us to, so maybe what we should do is respond in Slack on the mailing list? I mean,
I started something in the mailing list, so why don't we respond to the email that I sent that came from the mailing list, like what what you would propose to, what folks would like to propose as the technical discussions. I'll work with the SmartNIC Summit team. So Manoj and I have been doing that quite a bit. So we've been in all their meetings, and we'll respond back to them, letting them know that, hey, we're in. We found people who have committed to presenting, and we'll come up with the abstracts and a description of the day. I'd like to have it done in the next week or so. They want to publish, I think. Well, I'm not going to be able to do it the next week or so. How about the next 2 weeks? I'm going to be gone next week.
all right, and do we have a plenary slot, on with the secondary keynotes that we need to fill as well?
Yeah, we do. And what we've been talking with them about is a discussion around how do you define what is a SmartNIC, what is a DPU, what is a NIC. So a definition, what are the use case, and then specifically what are the use cases for a DPU, and how is OPI helping enable those use cases. And we will need to fill that slot.
All right.
And then as well, there is a call for papers that is coming, but is not yet here. So.
Yeah. All right, so it sounds like we have at least some volunteers. We'll use the mailing, so if you volunteer verbally here, use the mailing and respond to Paul's message and say, yep, I volunteer. We'll take all the as Paul said, we'll take all the volunteers and create the division of labor agenda for what
Yep.
we want to cover in the tutorial session. Okay, so excellent. Any other questions, comments on this? I mean, the SmartNIC Summit got about 100 people, or 112, but I think it was like 120 people last year. It was, small, lots of hallway conversations. People were active in the discussions. The individual sessions drew, 25 to about 40 people, depending. So it wasn't bad for a very first show. And Lance is who's basically organizing it with his wife, I think. They're very well connected, and they're very good at organizing and structuring shows. So it's pretty good. I mean, Dash will be there in some force as well, which is excellent.
Yep.
It's a good thing here. All right, any other questions, comment?
Yeah, the only other one is kind of secondary. The SmartNIC Summit folks Lance and his wife would love someone from Red Hat to be involved in the SmartNIC Summit planning. They've not they've not been able to. I think Red Hat was involved last year, but they're not involved this year as much. So, Stephen, if you've got any contacts there, I don't know if it's Chris that would be the right person to talk to, but they were looking for someone from Red Hat to reach out to them. I didn't want to start handing out Red Hat names that I know, so
Okay.
I told them
I'll,
I'd reach out to
contact Chris and
you guys.
Let her know.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Great. All right. Tim, do you want to share or do you want to just talk?
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk. We're not gonna go through the whole proposal again. I mean, we've done that 3 times now. So
Correct. Yeah. So we
Um,
want to, yeah, good. You take it away.
yeah, so I mean, this is kind of a carry on from last week's discussion where Joe wasn't here. So it's good to have him in the discussion. And then following on from the POC conversations in the work group yesterday meeting. So just to summarize, F5 is a proposal where we want to take NGINX as an application. We want to add an additional set of pods that go with the NGINX in a pod. One of those is a traffic source and the other is a traffic target. And that with these 3 pods, we can set up various configurations of testing. We can do network NGINX back to network. We could do network NGINX to host. We could do host NGINX to host. We can configure NGINX to be a proxy. We can configure it to do NAT functions. We can go beyond that into TLS and content caching and other areas that will stretch further and further into asking the DPU it's on top of to assist it, right? And to start to unlock some of the hardware offloads and test our APIs and stretch our APIs. At least that was F5's thinking going into this. And our proposal was we're going to develop those 3 pods in a server environment, and then we're going to bring them to the POC group to help us onboard them onto a DPU. And that was the point of the work group conversations yesterday. But during that meeting, Boris raised some objections, and he said, well, we've done Strong Swan. To him, this looks very similar to the Strong Song example, and that there's really nothing new here, and why are we doing this? Well, I would say that the NGINX will push us in some new directions. It will use parts of networking that Strong Swan is not trying to use. I think as an example to the broader community that they can come and look at an NGINX POC, they can run it themselves. They can maybe get on the lab that we're trying to build and use it as a starting point for their own DPU work. And NGINX has such broad reach and knowledge across the industry that it's really a great place for us to be doing that, as opposed to Strong Swan, which I don't think has that kind of cachet across the industry. Irregardless, F5 is going to do this work because we want to use NGINX as our example application for getting on top of all the different DPUs in our labs and doing learning work before we onboard our proprietary applications, because we think it's the right thing to be starting with, and we'd like to bring that knowledge and collaborate with OPI right in this effort. So I guess our approach is we're going to go ahead and develop these pods. Maybe we'll bring it to the POC and Boris will help us do a Strong Swan type onboarding. And then from there, we'll see, right? What can we get it to do? And can we get vendors like Red Hat interested in maybe doing a parallel example of onboarding it using OpenShift, right? Or other PaaS layers. And can we work with some of the silicon vendors, right? To tap into some of the hardware offloads, and from there figure out how do we generalize access to those offloads, right? So we have DPU independence. Can we take the example, assuming we do it on initial vendor's card, and easily move that to 2, 3, 4 vendors' cards, right? And actually demonstrate that we have a vendor agnostic application. So in a sense, think of F5 here as an ISV vendor. We're showing up at OPI, we have our application, and we want to sort of publicly show our struggles in trying to get this thing on these DPUs. And if we show that it's easy, then OPI has done its job in a lot of ways, right? Where we're succeeding. And if we show it's hard, we're going to expose gaps in what we're doing. There's also a bigger discussion about, okay, now we have an application, we have a deployment. Can we build POCs that go further and show sort of the entire life cycle of a deployment and that we can manage the telemetry of a deployment and all these other things we talk about, but are never tied into a use case, right? Can we build an example? And then the key here is we're not building a product. Yes, somebody could come down and download from the repo and deploy it, but it isn't designed to be production quality. We didn't test every corner of it. We're not supporting bug reports and bug fixes. That's not the idea. The idea is to have a working example that at least, you know, works in the general normal use case. And it's a starting point for any ISV as an example for onboarding their application into a DPU ecosystem.
Yeah, and the key here is that it would be, we would develop a common way of integrating applications of this kind. And if it's, again, I'm going to reemphasize what Tim said. If it's easy, then great, right? So the comment was, well, there's nothing to that. You know, there's nothing to do. And I'm like, well, let's show that. And if it really is, you know, 5 minutes of work and we're done, then we ought to publish that and explain, here's why it's only 5 minutes of work. Now, I don't believe it's 5 minutes, but if it was less than a week to get something, you know, integrated up and running, it would be fantastic. So we had a lot, and then Dan.
I think that Tim just articulated very well what I see as the pipeline of OPI. Get an application that is deployable, that is interesting, and I can explain why Strong Swan is not as interesting as Nginx in one sentence. If I go to a client and say, I've got Open Swan for you, he'll say, you have what? If I go and say I have Nginx for you, he'll say, oh, I've heard of Nginx. I know what to do with it. So that's point number one. Point number two, get an application, put it on the IPU, DPU, get the provisioning around it, then start using the acceleration engines is exactly the type of pipeline we want to lay to how this process works and this will invite more people. This will invite both ISVs and clients or deployment partners to look at this seriously, to say, hey, these guys are actually building a pipeline, building an ecosystem.
Dan, you're up.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. My question was more about timeline. Do you have a timeline of when you think you would post the code so we could grab it and try it on the IPU and just start that process and see how easy or hard it is to run?
Yeah, hopefully we're talking within a month. So sometime
Great.
in March, mid to late March, probably. It would be really good to have this all ready by the SmartNext Summit, so we could do a demo there publicly.
Yes.
So I hope, Dan, that we're posting by mid-March and we're working with the POC group on standing up the right demo.
That sounds perfect.
It also gives us a vehicle to run on our lab, right? As an example of to prove our lab's doing what we want it to do and show it to people in the lab. But I think the lab is further out than that. We're just getting the wheels turning on that. So
Anyone else? I mean, the discussion in the POC group yesterday was quite interesting and back and forth. You know, there were a lot of things raised about, okay, devil's advocate, why, you know, what does this imply about what we're doing in terms of, again, releases and you know, implications about implicit promises made to the wider community, and what does it mean for what OPI's core mission is? What are we really trying to do? My opinion is this fits in with the core mission, and if nothing else, it's an excellent exercise. I'm going to say it again. If it's really easy, then we can write up and publish and get the word out. Here's why it's easy. We can put that in talks. We can show why it's easy. And we can say, look, we did it for these other things, which are kind of infrastructure components. Nginx is an application, and look how easy it is. Okay. And here's why OPI should matter to you. That's kind of the takeaway I had after the back and forth yesterday, is that, even if we don't say, look, if you download all this stuff and follow this recipe, you have a fully, working OPI DPU, which of course you might, but we might not publish it that way. We might say, look how easy it is to integrate things. Now, there was another part of the discussion, and Tim can now amplify this, about what are the implications on common firewall and load balancer API components and API definition. Because the point was made, look, Nginx already has an API. Sure, we can plumb that through our gRPC broker, or plumb it through the management IP address of the DPU and expose it. But do we have anything to say about redefining or extending or defining that API itself? And I'm going to leave that as an open question. I don't have a strong opinion on that one way or the other, but that was brought up. I don't know, Tim, maybe you want to amplify the points on that one, or maybe
No, I think it's actually a bit hazy, Joe. So
okay.
I do think there's sort of two models to think about. There's you deploy an application, and then you need to deploy the networking config for that application. So that's sort of something that's coming external to the DPU, that's being established at the same time you're doing the deployment of the application. I think Nginx is not so much that model. Nginx is a different model, which is you deploy an application, and then that application, through its own APIs, once it has network connectivity, is going to be getting its own config, talking to other things in the network, and then it's going to be asking the DPU to do a bunch of stuff for it, right? So the config of networking, mostly in that sense, is coming from the application itself down into the DPU, which is a different model. And so that's where I get I'm a little confused on, is the gRCP still our bridge in that model or not?
So that's one of the things we can learn. I agree. And yeah, and that's why I left it a little open, because I don't know either. But, if you're setting up the networking such that Nginx is connected correctly, and a recipe for how to do that, that by itself has value. I mean,
Oh yeah.
right. And because
just getting it deployed with its management IP connected to the external network.
And again, so the traffic flows into it and out of it, showing how that works and showing why the config puts that Nginx in the path of the traffic you're trying to deal with, that, and how it can be in line with, say, your IPsec, and it all works together. I mean, if you live DPUs, 8 or 10 hours a day as your kind of primary day job, it might be obvious to you. If you don't, which is most of our consumers, but they want to see the value, it seems like having all of that elucidated, made clear, would be just a fantastic win for OPI. Even without a comprehensive overarching everything, just that, people would go, it's really not so hard after all. That's how I do it. Got it. And now they can have some confidence that when they go to the DPU vendors, they're going to be getting a platform they can actually use. When they go to the system and software integrators and software providers on top of the DPU vendor platform, they'll go, now I see, okay, I see how that software is going to interact. Oh, and I can make the best choice of DPU from the projected, end of next year, I would project there are going to be 30 models of DPU to choose from, right? Or maybe 20, but somewhere in that neighborhood. And now they have they're able to now say, okay, I have some confidence that I can pick the model that has the right performance, power, offload profile for what I need. And I'll be able to use the applications I want consistently. And that to me is a powerful message.
Yeah, and tying back to the SmartNIC Summit, this is the kind of example that I think highlights how a DPU is different than a SmartNIC. You don't think about deploying something like NGINX on top of your SmartNIC, right? But that's exactly the kind of thing we want to use DPUs for. And I agree with your points, Joe. I think this is a great vehicle for our consumers when they're evaluating cards to say, hey, I can follow the OPI example here. I can deploy my NGINX, which my devs know, and we can actually take these cards for test drives and evaluate them.
Alad, and then Keith, I don't know what NTD is.
So I think that if we can come to the SmartNIC Summit and show a pipeline, just like the one that Tim was alluding to, it's just a pipeline that shows what are the steps of implementing an ISV package over an DPU IPU. I think that will resonate very well if we can show a clear pipeline of how to do it step by step.
Yep, good. Mirza?
Yeah, I put in chat a link to a diagram. So I was working, I'm not going to be ready for today, but maybe next week I'll do a demo. I think it's exactly the same thing, but instead of NGINX, I was using StrongSwan. But I don't mind working with F5 if you guys are interested to do the same thing. If just look at the diagram, I think it's exactly what you are saying with traffic endpoints on host and on another server, and then you can do traffic in between the endpoints however you want. And I could even take it further and deploy some of the traffic endpoints on the DPU itself. Usually if it's ARM based and support container, I could do that. Anyway, just have a look at the diagram that I posted there. It's still work in progress. Probably I'll do a demo next week.
Yeah, that'd be great. And why can't we show NGINX plus StrongSwan once NGINX is up and going?
This is what I'm saying. So I'll do probably next week the StrongSwan demo, and then if F5 is interested to work with me, we could do the same thing with NGINX.
Yeah, we'll reach out to you, Marcia.
Okay.
Anyone else on this topic? All right, so I'm going to take it from that we're a go for the NGINX to come into OPI. Again, we want submissions from people and proposals from people, so this is a good one. So, all right, final thoughts and comments. Otherwise, for the demos, so the demo conversation last week was, it looked like that would be a good way. I mean, if we recorded some demos, maybe we post those, and that's a good way to show people that you can actually do something with OPI, even with the level of kind of components and APIs we've developed so far, and there's more coming, that even what we have is successful. What was the conclusion from the demo thing last week, demo discussion last week?
Let me jump in, right? So I think we agreed that it is very useful. We really want to drive adoption. We need to go do that. I think the discussion about do we start something new, or can this be part of the POC dev platform working group? I think that's a good place to start. If it really grows into much bigger and moves into demos and testing and other things, then we can look at it. But I think in terms of where this work can be coordinated, that could be the place. The other thing that we discussed was, do we right now, I think demos are happening wherever Mircha can do something, he's doing. We like those demos, but is there anything like, do we want to start creating a prioritized list so that he gets some direction from us on what is important to OPI or OPI members, right? So I think that was an open question. But that again, we can discuss here. It sounds reasonable that we could have that, and we could move it back to the POC, dev platform working group, and start creating that list.
Got it. Okay, so that's why. Okay, so Murchi, that's why you started the Strong Swan demo work, and this is a good thing. And once we have the demo, you can obviously show it here, but we can then record a demo and post it and work with Paul and the outreach group to get it publicized.
Yep.
We can drop the details, the facts and the diagrams, and make some pretty pictures to add to our core presentation, and proceed in that way.
Yeah, and we are trying to do also a storage demo. I reach out to both Intel and Marvell if they're interested to partner and maybe showcase it on one of their TPU. Since the previous demos, we showcase it on Pensando and NVIDIA, give everybody a fair turn. So that will be after I do this traffic generator IPsec Strong Swan demo.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, this is,
and then I run out of ideas for now.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely the way to get more people interested in actually doing things for OPI. So we want to publish video. We'll create yeah, go ahead, Venkat.
Yeah, so I think these demos are great. Actually, I saw them; they are really good. I think this. My suggestion is that we should evolve this into tutorials, because we have to make easy things easier, right? Then what happened, if we really want to drive adoption, people should be able to, within 30 minutes, do something, and that kind of, picks their interest, and then from there it goes in terms of driving adoption. So, so the demos, I mean, apart from adding to the list of demos, I think maybe in the POC group, we will discuss how to create, tutorials around this. That way it's like a, you have a page where you have a series of instructions, and then you could also see the video. It all kind of, supports each other.
Absolutely. All right. Anyone else on this topic? All right. So I think this is good work. So tutorials. So it's another way to promote this is, switches. So another way would be tutorials.
So what I'm suggesting is, instead of having a different set of tutorials, different set of demos, right? If they're all on the same topic, then they kind of support each other. Okay.
So do you want to, would you put together a short outline of what you were thinking? You can just be an outline, and just to summarize the thoughts. It could be in the mailing list. You could just put a thing on the mailing list. Avoid, for that kind of thing, either it should be just a PR markdown file, or on the mailing list.
Yep, got it.
All right, and then the lab plan execution, what's going on there?
Okay, so we met once to compare the codes. We are going to meet again today. So one of the main, so we because these quotes had a lot of maybe confidential and competitive details from the vendors, so we plan not to discuss the details anywhere except in that closed group. It has broad representation, so what we intend to do is to come back with a vendor that we selected, then really come back with a full readout. You may not see that. I think there was an agreement across, I should say unanimous, that we should discuss the confidential parts of the quote in that small group. We are open for somebody to join, but it's good to kind of maintain the confidentiality of these folks. So we gathered enough information. There are a few questions. To me, at this point, it doesn't look like we will have to postpone, kind of extend that deadlines. We may be able to decide today, and we'll be able to inform. And then kind of work with the vendor we selected. There are certain areas where we don't have full clarity, but at this point, I believe they may not be showstoppers in selecting a vendor and asking them to work with us on those final details. So, so maybe today, tomorrow, we should be able to come back with a decision on a vendor, or if we need one more week, we'll be able to update the TSC on the email.
That's fine. And in terms of the quotes and reviewing them, just publish when the discussion will be, the meeting invite, publish it. Again, probably mailing list or Slack, but say that we can't, we can't share the information from the details of the quotes. Sridhar, how do other groups handle that aspect?
Oh,
So if we have confidential quotes from labs, or quotes from labs that have some confidential aspects, we can't publish those. We're going to basically make a selection, and then we're going to basically say, here's the selection, here's how we're using them and all that. Put the details in, and then actually get equipment and put it in there and start using it for things like these demos, and then the integration tests and so on that we're talking about. But the confidential part of the lab selection process, how's that normally handled in Linux Foundation? I just don't know.
See, the numbers are not discussed anywhere or not put anywhere except with the board, right? So those things only maybe we can just the select few members will keep it within the mail exchanges, and we'll present it to the board, kind of a thing. Other than that, we don't publish it anywhere. Those things, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Lab select in the next board meeting is when? Remind me.
I think 13th or 14th of March, one of these two, Monday.
Okay, let me look.
So Monday, 13th of March.
March 13th. So we have till March 13th to have the selection to put in front of the board saying, here's who we selected and why.
Correct.
Okay, so we're on a good schedule for that. Excellent. Any other questions or thoughts on lab and the lab progress?
So questions, so we are okay with not publishing, right? Because even with board meeting, we record, right? We chose not to record our own meetings. Mainly because of
you
that.
should not record your own meetings. The board meetings are recorded, or the board meetings are board access only. They're not published.
But if we record, it's open to everyone. So even discussing the detailed way
No, the board meetings
only process the.
No, board meeting recordings are not available to everyone.
They're only for purposes of taking notes.
Yeah, but it's open to everyone. So even there, we may discuss the process we used, then really put any details about any vendors. So that should be okay. Right. It's a question.
Everyone in the sense, it's only for the board members.
I have seen others join, right, to listen in.
No, for board meeting, no.
It's only the people we invite specifically for a topic.
Okay, understood.
So it's only if there's a specific topic.
See, for
Otherwise,
example,
it's
sorry.
just board members.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can, again, the confidential stuff is only if it's relevant to why the selection was made, in which case you summarize it. Again, posting and sharing all the quotes, even for the board, is probably not required. As long as, anyone from the TSC or board has a opportunity to do the participate in the selection process. And then only if there are questions, do you need to bring that up? Yeah, so we don't have to be too sensitive for board meetings and the board level for disclosing details, right? That's, these labs have to be comfortable with that, because there's no other way to do a proper selection.
I think I think I got it. So we have enough time to kind of talk about the selection. If somebody wants to review it, especially TSC members, our board we will have, and we'll present the summary to the board on how we did it and
That's right.
What is the outcome. Yeah.
Okay, so excellent. All right, and then once we have the lab selection, are we anywhere on the equipment procurement criteria?
I still have not received a part number from any of the vendors. So I've asked again last week, and I still don't have part numbers that we can then go get actual costs for.
Okay.
So I'm still waiting for that.
So Dan, Tazi, we need Pursoon, and there may be a time delay. We need to reach out to, we should talk to Vipin.
Yeah, I talked to Vipin and he put me in touch with someone, but I haven't gotten any mail back from them. So Vipin might be a good place to chat again. I asked him again last week, but
and
someone else can tap on his shoulder.
And again, equipment may not be, we may not have the DPUs we want available until second half of this calendar year in some cases. Again, I can't disclose anything specific, but we all know that there's stuff available now, and there's stuff coming from all of the DPU producers. So
yes.
Although again, we can't, our rules prevent us from talking specifics here, but the vendors can volunteer, hey, this will be available by this date. You should buy, this model, and here are the servers that'll go into nicely. And that would help a huge amount, because we all know we can put stuff in the lab and make it work. And we all know we can they can be put in production and make them work. We have examples of that out there, and not just in the public clouds, right? We have other examples as well. So again, it's just, but we can't legislate from the TSC. We can't legislate that. It has to come from the individual members, I believe. All right, Marcia?
Yeah, so I reached mostly for me to HP and Dell saying, hey, I want to buy a server which is qualified with the DPU along the lines of the discussion we had before. HP came back to me with Bluefield 2 server and the Pensando DSC 25, so not 100 gigs, the 25 gig one. Those they said they have available. I didn't get yet the response from Dell through normal sales channels. So go on the sales page, says contact me and ask for what they have available. So once I get this, I may not be able to share the code, since that will be a code for me, but I'll share the part numbers, at least what they have available to sell from both HP and Dell.
Sure. All right. All right, so that's a good update for the lab. All right, and then I think we're going to need to take the stuff that's being worked on currently in the lifecycle and provisioning and the API group and bring them here. And because I know there's good proposals coming in, and once those solidify, we should all agree to them. All right. All right, that was all I had. I don't want to go through the status of those things right now. That was all I had. Anybody have any other topic or anything that we should put on the radar or anything that we could discuss?
So this life cycle update from a life cycle group would be really useful. I have missed a few of those meetings. I would like to attend because that might help us on some of these Nginx and other discussions on how things get built. So if we are prioritizing, that will be very useful for us.
Right. So we want a working. So I think we can have a working group summary call. Status, summary, and open items call. Okay, that was a good one. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much. Feels like progress. So, all right. So I'll close the meeting. Enjoy the rest of your day.